All right, econ students, for those of you who maybe are still confused or weren't in class yesterday because of the debacle with the Zoom or with SAT, let me very quickly go through the information from yesterday so maybe you can continue on with the assignment and kind of understand this concept. What we're doing here is we are going to shift demand curves. So previously we were graphing the demand curves and we were moving along the demand curve. Just one curve, price is going up or down. So in the first slide here, this is talking about a decrease in the quantity demanded. So for instance, the price of an object went from $30 and it moved up, the price is now $50. What ends up happening is that you have two fewer units being desired, so the quantity demanded shifts from 6 to 4. Okay, it's just moving along the first line. You can see up here in the upper right-hand corner, this is when the price of the object itself just changes. You see this all the time where prices will just change, and that will consequently either increase or, in this case, decrease the quantity demanded. You can see the second slide here. It's the same thing, just going the other direction. So think of it, if there's anything you desire, when the price drops, you may be more willing and able to purchase it because the price is gone. So that's the first stage, is quantity demanded. Okay, what we're going to do is something different from that. What we're going to do now is we're going to move the entire curve in a direction. And so what is going to end up happening is the curve will shift either one way or another. In this example, this is an increase in demand. Whenever there is an increase in demand, the demand curve will shift to the right. So basically, people will be willing and able to purchase items. There will be a different quantity at every price. So at $20, you'll see with a shift to the right, the quantity demanded will go from, let's say, 3 to 12. So you'll see an increase in the quantity demanded, it shift to the right. So usually in class, when I write it up on the board, we put it in the upper corner, increase equals right. What that means then is decrease equals to the left. So the demand curve will shift literally to the left. You'll have a complete new demand curve over here. So left is a decrease, right is an increase. What causes the shift? Now, this is the easiest way to remember this, is you put it, the word direct like this. These are all of your reasons. So everything below demand changes when. So IRECT. Those are your reasons why you'll have a demand curve shift. So they are income changes. People either have more money or less. So think of the demand of, for instance, certain items during the pandemic when people maybe A, had limited budgets or lost jobs. Basically, there were things that were no longer in great demand. You could have related products changing. There are two types of related products. There is a substitute good and there's a complement good. A substitute good would be, for instance, an item that you could put in the place of that particular product. So I think of always Coke and Pepsi. You go to the grocery store, and my mom used to do this when I was a kid, and she would basically pick whatever soda pop was on sale that week, she would buy. They were substitute goods. So one gets substituted for the other. A complement good would be, for instance, something that goes together with another item. You could think of like gasoline goes together with cars. So if the price of gas is at $4.50 like it was a few years back, what ends up happening is you see people stop purchasing, for instance, gas guzzling vehicles that would use a lot of gas. And so you have a complement good and a substitute good. You could have expectations change. You could expect prices to drop in the future. You could expect prices to go up. You could have other various expectations on certain items, and that could then change it to the right or to the left. And you'll see in the examples how they'll apply. You have consumers changing, which means that you either have more consumers or you have fewer consumers. So you could have, for instance, in the Aurora area, in the far west side, if you go back 40 years, there weren't as many people. So think for a second, what was the demand of restaurants on the west side of Aurora? Well, since there have been more people that have moved into the west side of Aurora, there are more demand for restaurants, and consequently now you see more restaurants, especially along the Orchard Valley corridor. And the last one, taste, fads, and preferences. It could be things that you prefer. It could be things that are cool for a short period of time. There's always like video games that are cool for a short period of time, then fade out. Those are fads. Clothes, various games. There's all kinds of things that you'll say years from now, oh, remember when that was cool for a little while? That's a fad. And then obviously taste is just the taste that people have at that period of time. For instance, as we get into the fall season, you'll see a greater demand for like sweatshirts and heavy jackets, and there'll be less of a demand for shorts and tank tops and swimsuits. So that changes over the course of time. So these are all of your reasons. Hopefully that made sense. If you go through the rest of this, basically I'm not going to read it to you right now. I'll let you kind of go through it, but this kind of explains, when a demand curve will shift to the right. And then this one kind of explains why a demand curve shifts to the left. Now, on the assignment, let me pull up the assignment here, and hopefully this will make some sense. I would be assuming here that for you, graphing this stuff was a piece of cake. So we're not necessarily going to overly worry about the first part. So if we look here at the bottom part, okay, in part 2, what you're doing is you are reading headlines. You're reading headlines from a newspaper and trying to determine what happens to the demand of orange juice. So for instance, in the first one, orange juice lowers the chance of cancer. So you're going to go A, will there be an increase or a decrease in the demand? In this one, there'll be an increase. Okay, an increase will go which direction, right or left? And the answer is it will go to the right. And the third one is, what is the reason? So you go back to direct. You ask yourself, is it income changing? No. Is it related products changing? No. Is it expectations? Maybe. Is it consumers change? No. Is it taste, fads, or preferences? Maybe. So in this particular example, you might put expectations, and I would tell you that you are correct. Expectations would be you expect to drink orange juice and lower the chance of cancer. You could also say, for instance, I prefer to drink orange juice because I'm trying to lower the chance of getting cancer. Those are all acceptable. You could have multiple. So that's how you would go through and do each of these. You would read each of these headlines and ask yourself, in A, is there an increase or a decrease? Does it go right or left? And then why? So hopefully that helps some of you out who maybe had some questions. So if after watching this, you still have no idea, send me a Schoology message and we'll just meet live tomorrow morning, which would be Friday morning, sometime to talk about it.